What causes a piercing to reject? Well, I'm going to cover that today. Coming up next on Body Piercing Basics, episode number 139. So stick around. For those that are new to the channel, first off, welcome to the Body Piercing and Tattooing channel. Hope you're enjoying the videos. Hope you're finding them helpful, but you might not know who I am. My name is DaVo. I'm a professional body piercer and have been since 1994. I own and operate the Axiom Body Piercing Studio, located right here in Des Moines, Iowa, inside Skin Kitchen Tattoo. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go over basically rejection. What causes it, how to avoid it, what's the difference between rejection and migration, what is rejection, what does that mean, and give you kind of a basic understanding of what's going on here with this. First off, what is rejection? Rejection is where, for one reason or another, the body begins to reject the jewelry or push the jewelry out of the body. It'll do this generally by either one of two methods. It'll either actually force the jewelry out and the area between the two holes will get thinner and thinner and thinner, or it will try to absorb one side of it and push it completely out the other side. That's common in oral piercings, sometimes nostrils or piercing with labret studs, where this tissue forms around the jewelry and then slowly it tries to push it all the way out the other side. Now, what's the difference between rejection and migration? Rejection is where your body completely pushes it out. There's no way around it. Your body wants to get rid of it and is capable of getting rid of it. Migration is where a piercing slightly moves in position. This could be caused, migration, I'll probably do a whole video on, can be caused by a lot of different factors. And most piercings do move a little bit during the healing process. Regardless, they migrate a little bit. It's usually just not very noticeable. Now let's get into the meat of it. How can I tell if a piercing is rejecting? Some of the signs you want to look for is redness. It'll become very agitated, bright red around the piercing, almost in the same way it was immediately after the piercing was done. Second one, the piercing holes get closer together. If it seems like there's more of the jewelry visible suddenly than there was originally, then it may be rejecting because those holes are getting closer together. If the skin around the piercing holes begins to crack or seem extremely dry, almost like anybody who lives in colder parts of the planet, when winter comes and you don't put hand lotion on or you use a lot of soap, your knuckles will start cracking and get red and raw. It's kind of like that. It dries and kind of splits apart right at the piercing holes, usually inside. And the last one is, if you can see the jewelry metal through the skin, yes, it's rejecting and you need to remove it immediately. Now let's talk about what causes rejection. The first one is generally improper placement, meaning that if it's a traditional piercing that usually heals easily, for one reason or another, when it was pierced, your piercer didn't read your anatomy correctly and pierced it incorrectly. The placement is either too shallow or it isn't in the right spot, and that will lead to rejection. This is really common with nipple piercings and also navel piercings. Number two, improper jewelry. Either the jewelry isn't long enough, isn't the correct shape or style, or is too heavy or made of a material that doesn't work well in a fresh piercing or is not biocompatible. Number three, that piercing just doesn't work. If it's a piercing that is like a surface piercing on, let's say, the side of your cheek, it's been proven over and over again that piercing is not going to work. It's probably going to migrate out. The same thing with knuckles, back of the arms, all these kind of odd, weird places. Most of that stuff is temporary at best, but your body is probably going to reject it because it just isn't going to tolerate that piercing being there, and it's easier for your body to push it out than to heal it. Number five, this is probably one of the more common problems we see with piercings, especially nostril piercings and ear piercings. You change the shape of the jewelry. For example, you go from a straight post to suddenly shoving a very tight, small ring in there. And that changes the shape of the piercing, which means it'll increase your body's ability to be agitated and thus try to get rid of it. Number six, you didn't downsize the jewelry. You left that long piece in there. It's getting caught a lot more, and it's kind of top heavy. So it just allows your body a little bit more leverage to let gravity do its special power and push that jewelry out and aid in that. Number 7, you abuse the piercing. You sleep on it because you think it's healed, but it isn't healed. You don't listen to people when they tell you not to wear high-waisted pants against your navel. You let other people play with it. You tug on it. It gets caught in hair. All those things. The more abuse, the more trauma the piercing receives, the less likely it is going to settle down and grow that piercing, and the more likely it is to have issues or flat out try to reject the jewelry. Number 8, the body simply doesn't have the tolerance for that piercing. For one reason or another, your body just has the super strength to go, nope, we don't like it, we're getting rid of it. This can also be a situation where you also don't have the correct anatomy for that particular piercing, and your piercer, instead of reading that anatomy and going, nope, this is not a good idea, did it anyway. And the last one, which is one of the more common ones when you see lots of fresh rejecting piercings, because I most commonly see this on somebody that has like 80 million piercings in their face. You have too many piercings healing at once. Your body gets to a point where your immune system and your body's ability to heal is just been drained to the point where your body needs to reject it, get rid of it, so it can heal up the other 18 things you have healing. Next, let's go into how to avoid rejection. First and foremost, avoid experimental piercings. These are piercings that are on more of the extreme level or experimental level. This is going to be things that are surface-to-surface piercings, where it's not a defined two-sided piercing. Things like anti-eyebrows, surface-to-surface tracheus piercings, nape of the neck, lots of oral piercings, to a degree, Ashley's. Also, things like snake eyes and scoops. Any piercing is just done randomly on the anatomy. All of those things are experimental. Yes, there might be somebody out there that healed it and had no problem with it, blah, 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 blah. Reality is, for one reason or another, they have the correct anatomy for that particular piercing. It works with them, and their body tolerated the piercing. Chances are, yours isn't. The second thing is make sure that the proper jewelry is used for that piercing. Meaning, if you're getting a nostril piercing, it's done with a stud-style piece of jewelry and not a ring. If you're getting your upper ear cartilage, same thing. If it's for example, a eyebrow piercing, it should be done with a curved barbell, not a straight one. If you do your research ahead of time, don't just trust your piercer that they know what they're doing, because they may not, and that leads to rejection. So know the correct jewelry, that what works best in that particular piercing before you even bother to go in and get a piercing. And maybe I'll do a video in the future that goes through maybe every facial piercing, every torso piercing, blah, blah, et cetera, and what the proper starter jewelry is for that particular piercing. Because I know I cover it in my consultation videos every single time. So if I put one out for that particular piercing, it's already mentioned in there. Next thing is number 3, avoid heavy or complicated jewelry. If you have something extremely heavy or is really large and has lots of things dangling off of it, during the healing process, that might not be the best option. Having very simple jewelry, maybe with one gem setting that's lightweight and doesn't get caught on absolutely everything it comes in contact with, is usually a better option until it's healed. After it's healed, more complex jewelry may work really well in that piercing, but it's not going to reject as readily as it would if you healed it out that way. Fourth thing you can do is downsize that jewelry on a timely basis. If it's one of those piercings that has swelling and we need to put a longer piece in than you're actually going to need, downsizing on a timely basis to a shorter post is going to reduce the amount of contact the piercing is going to have. It's going to reduce the amount of trauma it has, and it's also going to reduce the likelihood of it shifting because it's off weight or off center. The other thing it'll do is it won't be sliding back and forth all the time and possibly agitating it. So it's going to mean a faster heal, less problems, and less likelihood of migration in rejection. Number 5, completely isolate the piercing and the jewelry until it's completely healed. I cannot stress this enough. I don't care how it feels. If you know for a fact it isn't healed, don't sleep on it. Don't pull on it. Don't play with it. Don't rotate it. Don't let other people do that. Don't lick it. Don't stick it. None of that. Basically, leave it alone and isolate it as much as possible. And number 6, do not change the jewelry too quickly. If you want to go, especially when you're going from one style of jewelry to another style of jewelry, waiting as long as possible until that piercing is seasoned or healed, and then seasoned is usually the best option, and it's going to have a limited impact that it's going to have if you wait. If you put that jewelry in too quickly, change and alter the shape of the piercing and agitate it to the point where your body's like, okay, well, I'm a little bit closer on this side, so now I'm getting rid of this thing. I hope this video helped you understand what rejection is and how to avoid it and what to look for. Till next time, here's hoping all your piercings heal with ease and without a single issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, I hope to see you for your body piercing needs in the future. Have a good day, everybody. Take care, and check out this other video.